it's not a free format station. We're formatted, but there's a lot of personal touch because it's not just algorithm based. It is hand slotting these tracks that we think will sound good. Like the other day I played, what was the other day? We're recording this in the beginning of February. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's 2525. And some of these records are 25 years old. Let me just play songs from the year 2000. Nobody asked me to do that.
Yeah.
Literally nobody, me doing it, right? So yeah, we can do like fun things like that and just see what sticks.
It's like an homage to radio of yesteryear.
Yes.
I mean, that's another thing that's exciting about what you guys are doing as opposed to what the blank algorithm is doing that everyone's sucking the teat of.
There has got to be more than this.
Celia Gregory, thank you for coming all the way over here from your hallowed quarters at WNXP.
It's my pleasure.
I've been looking forward to this conversation for a long time, and I'll tell you why I want to have you on specifically, and then we can kind of maybe get there.
Okay.
But I am passionate about community, and that's one of the purposes of this podcast. I've been fortunate to live here for like 20 years, and have friends from all of those times, and a lot of them are still here. And I love this town. I love the people in it. I love how it's constantly changing and yet still has this core. And yet, as an active artist engaged in the modern modes of distribution, I have to play ball with the platforms and everything. And I do so with, not displeasure. I've come around, but it's just like a necessary thing that you have to do. Yeah. And I don't think I'm the first person to say that things like Spotify are just inherently, I'm going to use a dictionary word, inimical to radio. Especially like when it's focused on local markets. And so there's this little person in me that is inside with this clenched fist that's just like, fight the man. And so it's ironic that this podcast is distributed on these platforms.
Right.
But I wanted to have you in here because I feel like you guys at WNXP are at the front lines of building this community experience. And there's a history there. So
thank you.
That said,
yeah.
How did you get into radio?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, not just for having me, but for like leading with radio as a tool for community building.
Yeah.
Because that's why I'm doing it. I mean, it's also fun, and I can talk more about the fun and the perks, but yeah, feeling closer to my community in Nashville, where I've lived for 16 years, because of this station is a cool byproduct for me. And so if we can do that for other people, whether they're longstanding residents or artists or just music fans or brand new to town, it's cool. That's cool. That's the mission. I went to college in South Carolina. I'm from Kentucky, and I knew I wasn't going to like rush a sorority or anything, like no shade. That wasn't my path. I watched Almost Famous in high school and was like, oh, I want to do music stuff for sure. But I just played the same 3 chords on my guitar. I wasn't going to pursue music in that way, but I was like, I could meet cool people at college if I did the radio station. And that was true. Like some of my longstanding friends still from college are from our little college radio station.
So you started in college doing...
Yeah. And I never thought I would have it as a job, but like my first show was 4 to 6 a.m. Guess who's listening? Like long haul truck drivers, maybe if you're lucky. But as a freshman, like what a cool way to cut your teeth and be like, all right, I'm just going to build playlists. And I don't know if anybody's listening, but this is fun for me.
This would have been when, if that's okay to ask.
Yeah, let me age myself. Cool. My freshman year was 2003 to 2004. So
that was what was happening in the industry then. Was like Napster was still huge.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, your girl was ripping shit all the time.
Yeah.
And I feel guilty about it, but I feel like I'm paying back now. Like my penance is being able to spin people on the radio. I'm like, sorry, I stole all of your MP3s from Kazaa or whatever. But yes, we were still getting fed CDs, right? Like labels would send it in the indies, like the great indies, knowing like what Merge Records was, Matador, Sub Pop, all that, because we would be sent stuff and then we had to peer review it. Like a DJ like you or me, like would be like, okay, these are the ones you can't play because there's F-bombs. Here are the ones I recommend. Here's what it sounds like. And I still have some of those early like examples of music writing that was just for us, the community of the DJs. And we'd pick out a certain number of CDs from the library, and then we had to play a certain number of new ones, the currents, that would be like right above the CD decks. But it wasn't all digital then. In fact, just like some things would be sent to us virtually, but mostly it was still CDs and records and stuff.
I remember when I read around the same time. So we're ballparking the age. And when I was setting out to be an artist in the scene, I remember just like the challenge of sending your CD to college radio and reading articles, and the debate was like, should you get professionally printed labels or just write on it with a Sharpie? Because like they maybe like the personal touch.
Like how to stand out.
Exactly. Yeah. This is how, now the debates are like how to stand out on the freaking, like how to make your look or do your reel. Same deal, different time.
But people still send us CDs with like real lovingly compiled care packages, and it breaks my heart because we're not playing from the CD. Like we're just, can you send us a wave? But like the effort we still see come through,
There's that, definitely. It's like a handwritten thank you.
Yep.
It goes a long way. So yeah, since we're on this subject, I'm just curious from a technical perspective, you just hinted at it. When you're playing tracks on the station, it's waves on.
That's right.
There's a program probably.
We have a really like Inside Baseball. It's a program that, organizes different clocks. So we know in a given hour, we want to play a nice balance of new and old, and like music exposure and discovery. And also the familiar is what keeps people listening for more than a song, right? There's science behind it. And we even break that down in the old with different categories that are like familiar, indie rock, familiar from hip hop from the 2000s, right? Like we've really over time in 4 years changed how our library is laid out so that we can best organize our music. But yeah, it's easier to do that virtually, just digitally. And we play WAV files, and we still play hard media. Like I'll sometimes bring up records I've just gotten and put them on the turntable. We can definitely broadcast CDs or vinyl, but
not as convenient. Well, I don't want to pry open anything proprietary there, but I am curious if whatever you feel comfortable sharing, like what for new artists coming out, I think they would be curious to know what percentage per hour, say, of new unknown artists do you play as compared to the familiar in those various categories?
No, that's a great question. And I don't have like exact math, especially because what is a known artist is, debatable.
Sure.
If somebody if they read all the music magazines and stuff, they might have been like, yeah, I know Chapel Roan. Guys, thanks a lot.
What's your ringers, you just throw in that are like always staples that are going to be there? I mean,
think about like bands that are like commercially successful, but also beloved indies, or like Gorillaz, right? Like that shit sounds good no matter what you put on either side of it. And people know those songs. They're kind of like, parents are listening with their kids and everybody can nod to it in the car, right? But yeah, the balance is like basically half and half. And we play a lot of young artists, a lot of not just young in their careers, but like young people that might not have a foothold elsewhere, but like have come up through the streamers like TikTok and stuff, like following those trends, but only playing them if we like them. We're not just going to follow a trend because we're like, got to be on top of it. It's like, does it sound good on the radio?
This is so fun. Okay, I'm just going to go down this.
I don't want to be so inside baseball either, because I'm like...
I think this is fascinating to me, and it's my show, so...
you ask the questions. I can plead the fifth.
So, yeah, exactly, always. So I imagine you guys have like a weekly meeting and stuff, and this is how I picture it, is like program director or station manager or both or whatever, and the DJs or some are sitting around a table and playing tracks for each other of this is what's coming up, or this is hot right now. What you guys listen to it together and talk about like, oh, that's cool, or I don't like that, or is it like that?
It is. I mean, we're a really small team, and there are people in programming that ultimately it's their call, but we have a lot of, so like what we're going to play more of as a station, which by and by, like max number of times you would hear a song if you listen to the radio from dawn to the time you went to bed would be like 5. Some commercial stations will ram a song down your throat. I don't have to tell you that. You've lived on planet Earth, right? So it's not the norm to have so much variety in an hour and in a 4-hour period of time. So like in my show, I won't play the same hour twice over 4 hours. I don't need to. But yeah, we have a lot of latitude as individual DJs. So there might be stuff that we're playing more of because like it's new and we want to expose people to it. But like I personally am not a fan. I'm still going to play it, but then I'm going to pad that shit with like my Built to Spill and my like stuff that I love to play. And that's why our shows sound reflective of who we are and like what our tastes are, you know? And it's become more and more that way over time. So that like, it's not a free format station. We're formatted, but there's a lot of personal touch because it's not just algorithm based. It is hand slotting these tracks that we think will sound good. Like the other day I played, what was the other day? We're recording this in the beginning of February. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's 2525. And some of these records are 25 years old. Let me just play songs from the year 2000. Nobody asked me to do that.
Yeah.
Literally nobody, : me doing it, right? So yeah, we can do like fun things like that and just see what sticks.
It's like an homage to radio of yesteryear.
Yes.
I mean, that's another thing that's exciting about what you guys are doing as opposed to what the blank algorithm is doing that everyone's sucking the teat of.
Yeah, for better or for worse, and sometimes we make it harder for ourselves, it is very human curated. And that's the point. Yeah.
So I'm just curious, you said that the radio, the shows have gotten more reflective of this respective DJs over time.
Yeah.
And so that makes me think that everyone's been there for a while and there's probably not a ton of turnover because I think that for a radio person that's passionate about music, this is kind of a dream job.
It's a dream job. Yeah. It is. It's a dream job for me. Like I said, I never thought when I did college radio and then community radio here, bridging a gap of some 10 years or something, that I could get paid to do it. I'll often be like, I would do this for free, but don't tell my boss that. I want to get paid. But yeah, we do have a really consistent staff right now. And also people with deep radio experience in some cases. Like our nighttime host comes from the sports world. So he's honed himself as a music host, but like he knows radio. Right. And so, and then we have great weekend DJs too.
Okay. Maybe this is an opportune time to get in a little to the history of the station. Okay. And I can say a few clumsy things and you can correct me.
Right. Okay. I'll try.
It would be a fun way to try to go forward. As I understand it, it was owned by Vanderbilt for a long time. Is that correct?
This is the history lesson.
I think it was.
So the frequency was the Vanderbilt station.
Was the Vanderbilt station. Yeah, exactly.
Which was purchased by Nashville Public Radio for the classical station.
And then they decided to push the classical or move the classical to strictly digital.
That's right. And it's like HD1 you can get on most new radios and in your car and stuff too. It's still a viable channel. But yeah, so it's kind of funny. People that have lived here for a long time would be like, now it sounds more like the Vandy station did at the same frequency that many years ago, right? 91.1. Like, we back, baby.
Yeah.
We have some people that are, grumbly that the classical is not on that frequency, but we're making a home there, like we've. And
it's only been
we turned
way less
4
than 10.
in December. Yeah. So this will be our 5th birthday is this year. And it's crazy because remember what you're doing 5 years ago. Like they started the station in the pandemic. Where do most people listen to the radio? In their car.
Yeah.
We're like, hello? Like, is this thing on?
Nice soft start.
Yeah. And that's why I was like, I'll be morning host. What the hell else am I doing?
Yeah.
I'll go to bed at 8:00 every night and wake up. Ooh.
And then the world woke up and then you're like, oh God, I got to still get up
And I've
early.
learned to sleep less. Yeah.
Yes. As you do one way or another.
Yeah.
Have a kid that does the same thing. Okay. So does the station now we can kind of move into the community building side and the stuff that I'm just really curious about, but you guys have relationships with a lot of, like, I wouldn't call them tastemaker, great local brands like Imogene and Willie comes to mind, or United Records Pressing. And forgive me for not knowing this. In some ways I live under a rock, but do you have like community sponsored events on the regular or shows do you sponsor, or tell me anything?
And I'm not just demurring like the 5th. It's really just not my domain. And I love that because we have really skilled folks that do know how to navigate that and are working exclusively on booking shows and those.
But you guys do that.
And sort of strategic partnerships. And the brand stuff is like, we had to like prove ourselves as a viable media / music entity, right? And then I think people are now like, they're coming to us. They want to partner with us, which is really cool. It's a great position to be in. And sometimes it's just logos on a thing together and it's financial support we need as a nonprofit station. But the dream is that you're bringing audiences and fans of two brands together and growing your influence and your audience,
I like the dream.
Yeah. And we did a cool backyard sessions series at the Bobby Hotel that they'd been doing for a number of years, but they said, we could use some help booking. And then they realized, wait, you're the tastemakers. Like,
it's a no-brainer.
Should you just do it? Like, instead of like assisting us and like giving us emails. You just do it. And then it was this really great, they focused on what they do well, which is hosting the event on the beautiful rooftop of the Bobby Hotel. And then we blast it out and promote the hell out of it and book the bands and make sure the bands got paid, which is, as you know, important.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Win-win-win.
But free for attendees, right?
Win-win-win.
So that's the dream. Yeah.
Amazing. And is this series still going?
We're doing it again. They're working on dates and stuff now. So it'll be in the summer.
Seasonal thing. Yeah. Very exciting. And I think that that's what we're all trying to do as, let me see if I can draw a parallel here. I feel like there's a DIY, scrappy kid that could kind of spirit to the station. And I recognize that as an indie musician myself. I have to do all of the things.
Yeah.
And over time, I'm the slowest learner ever invented. But I'm learning how to delegate. I feel like this is the journey of an indie. Is you're broke and you have a dream, and if you have enough ambition or you just will refuse to die, then you learn how to do it. You learn whatever that means. You learn how to write the songs, play the songs, sing, book the shows, answer somebody's email in a timely fashion. Use Photoshop. You know everybody at Kinko's. I still call it Kinko's because that's what it's called.
FedEx ships. Kinko's makes the copies.
Damn it. I mean, it's pretty clear. Like this, I have a flyer. I love this. This
You
is a
love
throwback.
paper. I know this about you.
Yeah, I love.
I know.
I love
like hard copies of things.
I love hard copies of things, and I actually have always loved that side of show promotion. The hand to mouth, the organic, the grassroots, handing somebody street team stuff. I love it, and I remember when I first moved to town and I had my first shows here. Now it's like illegal to put posters on telephone poles, which makes it even more fun when you do, which I did this week all over the town. Somebody I know.
What a way to go down now, right?
Yeah. I don't know.
Busted for
get arrested
to a phone pole in 5 points.
Oh my God. This is just a total non sequitur, but I came across something last week and made me laugh. I had to show Randa, my wife. But it was a lawyer making an ad on TikTok, and he was just like, look, man, okay, this is what we'll do. If you got $500, we will come to your location. We have 3 cop cars. We will make an arrest. You're allowed to protest as loud and cuss at us and do whatever you want. Resist arrest. We'll handcuff you. We'll throw you in the back of a car. We'll take you to a dive bar and he named it. It was like in Miami somewhere where there'll be a cooler stocked with beer and a weekend trip. And then on Monday, and you have the place for the weekend. And then on Monday, we'll release you and say it was just a big misunderstanding, and you can just wanted to create
to totally get out of here.
Totally awesome in front of your girlfriend. It's like that scene in Superbad,
that sounds alluring right now.
Wouldn't that be?
Kind of.
I feel like I ruined it for anybody's girlfriend listening, or whatever. Go to it. What was I?
You were talking about the hand, but the street doing your own street team stuff and putting stuff on the phone pole.
Yeah, and because I found out that I really enjoy the graphic design part of it and the distribution, but like the hand. Like the small timey stuff.
Were you putting stuff under windshield wipers?
I never did that because I never occurred to me, but I would always, like all the coffee shops I'd go to, I just like surreptitiously leave a short stack. And people came to the shows because it was just kind of weird. If you see something that's sort of cool and it doesn't tell you anything. I mean, I respond to that advertising so strongly. Like I was at South by last year and we were having lunch out on the street somewhere, and just this very kind of sketchy but sort of endearing kid, it's mid-20s or something, looked maybe unhoused, maybe probably, and but he had like a big zine, and he's just like, "Hey man, do you want this?" And just the way he looked at me, he was like, "You want this?" No, it wasn't like that. It was like, "You want this?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." And all it had was it's not even a title on it. It was just like kind of cool, provocative, weird drawings.
Just one. He didn't have a stack.
No,
he said, "Do you want this zine?"
One. I'm sure he had another stack, but it was like very handmade, and there was nothing traceable on it except an Instagram handle. And I to this day follow that kid on the Instagram.
He was just promoting him. What is it? as a content creator? Is he a compelling?
I think, yeah, he's just like maybe an aspiring comic book artist in that world, right? And so he just like, but it was so
some of that sort of like guerrilla
mysterious.
warfare. Like you gotta like stand out. That's the standing
works
out.
on me. Like
Yeah,
I think it's a very not to be recommended to anybody like wanting to be.
Well, even if your success rate is like 2 people come to an open mic or whatever, or a show that you have 7 people at, that's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
So you're like, well, I'm going to do that again.
And especially when you're young and the stakes are so low in a way that it's just like those 2 people out of 7 is like a potential lifelong friendship. I mean, that's when all the best stuff starts, when you're 20 and broke and meet all the other 20 broke dreamers. That is so fun. And for that reason, I forbid my daughter to go into the arts because
you're already saying as an infant she's forbidden.
No, I think that she'll be burned out on it because she's already going to. I mean, I have an 8-week-old daughter.
She's a Nepo baby already,
and she's already been to 3 shows, and she's slotting right in there. It's already like dad stuff. I can tell. Just the look
she's gonna rebel and like exclusively listen to pop music and.
I wonder. I think,
and then come back around maybe.
Yeah, eventually when she's like kids do.
Do you know what the best thing? You didn't ask. I'm gonna tell you.
Tell me.
The best thing I think about the radio station in my particular slot, like realizing who my audience is from 6 to 10. Once people did get back in their routines, things opened up. Yes, like a lot of working professionals and stuff, and peers, but a lot of parents with their kids on the way to school. Like I am very conscientious about like what I'm playing between 7 and 8. And I don't just mean like for profanity reasons stuff, but like I want to connect the mom and the teenage daughter that otherwise are at loggerheads over songs. And you know why? I know it has worked.
That is fucking awesome.
So then it's like my personal mission. And when people, I could get upset, I could cry. When people donate to the station and say our whole family loves it, I'm like, since when does a whole family love anything?
Yeah.
Since
there's a human being behind on the other side of the speakers thinking about that relationship, that fraught relationship between mother and daughter, and being like, what's that song? And just looking for it.
Yeah.
That is so beautiful.
Like one day I played Billie Eilish Into No Doubt and shouted out the teenage daughter of this one woman I just met at an event and said, this is my Billie Eilish, Gwen Stefani, right? Like, but I was like, and I'm not saying I'm like batting 1,000. It might be 2 people that this has ever been the case for.
Yeah.
That's enough for me. That like fills my cup.
Absolutely.
It doesn't pay my mortgage, but it fills my cup,
Yeah. I mean, cup filling is, I think, a premium these days.
And mind you, kids aren't navigating to radio by themselves. They do need to have it on in the car. The parents need to say, back in my day, I listened to radio, and now we're going to listen on the way to school. They're going to gravitate towards the streaming and stuff, which is why we put our playlists there too. But we do have a younger audience than most radio stations of our type, right? Like aligned with news stations, public, independent music stations, a lot of times skew older and has a, audience that is growing with them. So like a Philly station or whatever. That's just like, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they're going to cater to that aging population. We've like carved out a market where you're like, wait, 20-year-olds are listening to the radio in Nashville, some of them.
I love that.
It's cool.
Can I ask how do you get the metrics? How do you know?
That's
for the nerds.
Yeah. I mean, Nielsen like does tracks, like, but it's a voluntary thing. Like, so you're never getting the whole picture with ratings. Also, something we tell ourselves when we're upset. Like that's not all of it. But no, it does count towards stuff, especially when it comes to, partnerships and advertisers and stuff. By the way, we don't have advertisers. We have underwriters. It's different. We're a non-commercial station. But
how does that compare? You just mentioned something about it, but different way to ask this question. There is a community of stations like you around the country. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I would say there are peers that have done things similar. Yeah.
How many?
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, less gut feeling,
I'm so
like
sorry.
less than 20.
Well, I mean, there's different size markets, right?
Yeah.
So it might be like Louisville has
but non-commercial
FPK.
Yeah.
And then there's like the Austin station. That's pretty similar because they have KUT and then KUTX. So the news station and the music station are together. So those aren't just like in the dozens. It's still a smaller number, but it's,
So you guys are like, this is dumb that I didn't even put this all together, but I mean, yeah, you're a non-com
That's right.
radio station.
Yeah, and we're part of Nashville Public Radio, which is a nonprofit organization.
And so you're being serviced by like radio promoters for new records that are coming out
Yeah.
Right?
And,
Just like every other station.
Correct.
So like
non-commercial, promoters and stuff. And then of course there's an element of like music discovery of like we find bands. I'm not like hot on myself because I'm very rarely the inroad for a band. So don't, nobody send me your stuff. I'm not the best like receptacle for it. But I literally went to Paris over the, with my public radio salary. It's a long story. I'll tell you offline. Went to Paris with my girlfriend and we knew we were going to stay in this certain neighborhood in Airbnb. I looked and around the corner was a venue. It was a mid-sized venue. And I was like, oh, I wonder who's playing there. And I see an English speaking band because a lot of French names. And it's this British band. And I listened to them and they rip. And it's the first night we're in Paris and the show's sold out. And I reached out to the band. I was like, I love your music. It's a bummer I can't see you, but will you send it to me so I can play it on the radio? And then they put me on the list. And so I saw them. But that was like me stumbling upon it. And now they're played on a Nashville radio station.
Yeah.
So it's not always the like label and the promoter and that.
Yeah.
But there's
Again,
still that
the
business.
magic.
But still there's that infrastructure and it really matters for artists because if you are not getting the support and having people pass music to somebody else, you might feel like it's harder to break through.
Love that story for two reasons.
Yeah.
One is just the sheer, like the serendipity of that experience and how like that band doesn't know where that's going to go. Somebody heard their song now and is a fan and like so magical.
And I feel that way about all artists, right? Not just artists from other countries or young artists or artists of color, but especially when there are artists that don't really have a radio home elsewhere. Like that's the magic, right? Is being like, oh, your song is cool and I want to play it on the radio. And they might not have thought that was even an angle for them to get in the ear holes of somebody, you know?
Yeah. And is it fair to say that there is a possibility and whatever, possibility is a big word, nice and cushy.
Yeah.
That like somebody who finds their way in through some unorthodox door might suddenly be able to play a show or maybe WNXP sponsors an event that they're part of, or who knows? I mean, like, I'm just saying.
No, I like you saying the cushion of
go.
possibility, because sometimes you find something that like you really believe in as a music lover, and we just happen to be on a staff that like, if there is an opportunity to book you for something, maybe, you know, and especially locals, because that's what we're working with. I mean, we play, you asked about the balance of new and old. We play local artists and a lot of them in rotation every hour. And by that, I mean, like, there's not like just a local show on Mondays at 11 p.m., you know, where we're like, look at us with our locals.
Yeah.
We weave it in as new music you should hear. Because we believe that the music made in Nashville is some of the best in the world.
Let's dish on some locals. What are you hot on right now? Just, you know.
Yeah, so this is fresh because I just saw them Saturday, and it was one of those examples of like, man, like these guys aren't signed yet. And I hope they get signed. Like this band called Bean. It's just like Bean, all caps with a period. The stylizing, now I sound like a grandma. I'll be like, I can't with the punctuation and the lowercase and stuff. But they stand out. Bean, period. Belmont boys. You know, Tale as Old as Time, so good, and they sound like, you know, like McGee and Dijon, and like this like really cool new melding of, you know, guitar music, but with like this R&B flavor. It's just like working for me, and it's working for a lot of people. And the vocals are great. This kid named Korby, singer, and they're just like really nice. So you want to root for them. I feel the same way about this rock band called Gloom Girl, MFG. They're so fun. Female fronted garage rock. Like I'm here for that. Morning, noon, and night, like every day of the week. Like that is my shit. And so I love rooting for them. I mean, there's innumerable really cool and solo artists and stuff too, right? Of course, but it's interesting to see what comes across our desk, because like for some people, we are their only radio home, which you know pretty well. There are other independent and or you know, sort of left of center stations in town as opportunities to get your music played, but some of those sound similar. And we were like, well, there's not a lot of avenues for local hip hop. Like, let's play these guys, you know?
Yes. I saw recently you had Gillian Welch and Dave Rawlings on, and I think that we're on your show.
No, I didn't have them on my show. I wish. No, we played the interviews that they got to do with our team. They were Nashville Artist of the Month on each of our shows, right? So their voices appeared throughout the month. I got to meet them at Grimey's, but no, I didn't host them in studio.
Well, I love any opportunity to talk about.
Well, yeah, let's talk. I'm obsessed.
The last record is, I mean, I've played that record more last year. I think that one and the new Dawes record are the two most played records for me in 2024. But that is a careful and timeless piece of music. They do timeless. It's timeless better than anybody out there.
And by way of like nostalgia, right? Like I moved here in 2009. I was a college DJ from 03 to 06. Like I remember getting burned CDs in high school, Gillian Welch CDs, right? And then being able to play her and Dave on the radio in college. And then I move here and I'm working at a restaurant, which has changed hands, but in 5 Points next to Woodland Studios. And I'm like, I've lived here for like 3 weeks and Gillian Welch comes in to get dinner. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And now I get to play them and highlight them on this station, which is my job. It is...
It's a
dream. Like that's a great example of an arc of like, I could never imagine. Like I'm more starstruck by them than a lot of these other, folks, because they're just so important to Nashville and they mean so much. And the music is timeless.
Just swapping Gil stories. This isn't even a great story, but it's my Gil story, so I'm going to say it. But this is back when I was living in Seattle and when the Revelator record dropped, Time the Revelator. And there's a cut on there called Elvis Presley Blues.
Yep.
And there's one that's a diamond among diamonds, that song. And such that it was like the first song I learned off the record. And I was like probably 23 or something, just so hot on Americana and bluegrass music. And I couldn't get it. Anyway, I just learned that song first thing and played it for people. And it was like part of my little, probably open mic sets then. And, so they were playing at the Showbox Theater in Seattle. Cool it's a great, I don't know if it's still the same, but it was such a cool rock club in the aughts. And 1,000 cap probably. Gil and Dave played it, just the two of them, like they do silent, house. And I like wormed my way out. I knew all the words. I'm just in there. And they totally, just ridiculous. Like, and they play their last song, they go off stage. Everyone's clapping. And they came back up and they hadn't played Elvis Presley Blues yet. And so like you could say that they were like talking with each other and it was just silent in the room. And I just said like, they were probably as far away as I am from you. And I said, Elvis Presley Blues. And she just looked straight at me. And then I saw that the set list was in front of her and it said Encore Elvis Presley Blues. And she just smiled like, and I felt like I knew. I got the inside track. I felt so cool. Anyway, that was the greatest moment of my entire life. Yeah.
And then have you seen them in town since you both share the city?
I see them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll tell you why when we're off mic.
Okay. I feel like a creep because I'm on the record saying this, but I told them to their face at Grimey's, hi, I worked at the restaurant next door to Woodland when I first moved here. She goes, I thought I recognized you. I was like, you did? So I have said this to their face, but this brings up a good point. That record is timeless. It's beautiful. It just won Best Folk Record. Like it is Americana. It's folk music. Mm-hmm. There are other stations playing that record. Mm-hmm. We think it's beautiful. We think they're important. They're not young up and comers. They're not, bedroom pop artists. They probably don't need this. It's about how the station sounds and how it feels and who has a foothold as a listener. Because we do want to be able to like appeal to broad tastes, right? Mm-hmm. Like I have like a punk pop emo history. I also go see Fish. And then I play all these cool indie artists that I might not know unless I was a DJ. It's fed to me. But I feel like I have eclectic taste and a lot of people in Nashville do. So we want to be able to play all those. And that would be an example of like a recognizable name, but brand new music. And it's like, ooh, you're missing out if you haven't heard Woodland, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great point. And that makes me wonder, how do you know what the tastes of your listeners are exactly? And is it a gut feeling? Is it like, is there a personality behind kind of the station as a whole? Is there a guy or a girl?
Yeah. I'm like, oh, is there a guy or a girl? You mean like the person we envision listening when we're designing, or is there an actual?
I didn't mean that, but
you meant like somebody designing what was.
But I like that question better.
I mean, yeah, our program director, like this was his baby, and oh yeah, I've said like, I will follow you, Captain, right? Like he's worked like a lot of years in music. I'm talking about Jason Moon Wilkins. He's the best. And he took a chance on me when I've never.
He's a Nashville legend.
He really is. He really is. Like now I'm being fangirl about him and not Gillian, but we'll just shift over. But like, he took a chance on me and I've thanked him profusely for that. I know like I'm good at it, like the nuts and bolts of being a DJ. but really he just has a feel for, you know, how he wants the radio to sound because of his years working in all different facets of music. He's toured, he's performed, he's booked shows, he's booked festivals, he's managed, right? And so he knows lots of angles of the business, and he's been on the news side. So he's got this great approach to journalism. So much of what we do is music journalism. Like the Gil and Dave stuff was not just, here's the record. It's telling stories about the record and connecting them to their community. So to answer your question, like the personality of the station, you know, yeah, there's like a spirit to it and a soul that we want to preserve. There's also like, we're growing as music changes, and we're willing to be like, that sounds cool. And if like our audience isn't really responding to that, we don't get like feedback about every single song we play, but we can kind of see what people are latching onto, what they request. I have a request show, so sometimes I'll have folks that way. And it's also people coming to our shows. Like if we have a band that we're playing the hell out of relative to other stations, and we're talking about that band on air, and we go to Basement East and it's sold out, we're not taking credit for the sellout, but there's probably more people in that room that heard about them on our station than they would have otherwise, right? And so the venues know that. Hopefully the artists understand that connection too. And then that's how we sort of see what's reflected in the community as far as tastes.
I love your all's mission, and I want to be part of it and help it in any way I can because of the community side of it, and the fact that there's just, in a world where I feel like the human being as such is just being squished at every angle, and they're minimized and eliminated and replaced, that it's incumbent on anybody who has a desire to preserve the arts to promote and to encourage and to foster the fruition, let's say, of people behind, like people, human beings making choices in the artistic community. And you guys are just like that, so emblematic of that. And
thanks.
So that makes me want to say, you know, like to the people that are listening that are all over the place in America and the world, how best can they help if they are interested in this mission as well? They can stream the show.
Yes, I'd love. We can be heard anywhere at WNXP.org. We also have an app, Nashville Public Radio app, but a lot of people are streaming. Also follow us on the socials. Like we have a huge digital presence that might not always translate to radio, but like we're getting bands exposure through our Sonic Cathedral sessions. We're hosting bands and artists, and sometimes those will pop off. Like there's this artist named Jalen Nganda. He ended up playing one of our rooftop sessions at the Bobby last summer. But before that, we had him in the Sonic Cathedral when he was on his way through. I don't remember. So this is before his like record popped off and stuff. The Sonic Cathedral session, because he's a young artist that doesn't have a lot of stuff on the internet. Somebody found it. Jill Scott and Snoop Dogg tweeted it or like shared it, you know, so their platforms of people. So maybe we didn't always get the credit, like meaning like, this is a cool session from WNXP in Nashville. We're not always going to get like the name. It's just the video took off. And now that YouTube session, you know, like it's huge. So we never know how things are going to be found, but the digital audience is not always the same. The Venn diagram is not the same. There might be people that look for our Sonic Cathedral sessions, follow us, you know, watch our reels on Instagram, and are never going to turn on the radio. That's just not how they consume music. That's okay. So follow us on socials. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe. And if you are passionate about music, especially if you live here and you feel like there's a community resource, donating. Like we are a nonprofit station. When you hear us during fund drives, you're like, oh, right. They're part of Nashville Public Radio where it's that time of year, right? But we need the support all the time. And without going too far into the weeds, like in the current political environment, it's not just localized, like it's more like nationally, like independent media and news. It's like under attack, you know? And because we're part of the greater apparatus, Nashville Public Radio, it's possible that some of that public funding, which is a very small portion of our budget, but is still meaningful, could go away. So it's like we need our listener members more than ever.
Good pitch. Inappropriate. And it's, if I just pan back and look, it's like you guys are having a great adventure and taking the community along with you. And I hope that the community is meeting you where you're at. And I hope that this time next year, there's even a more hand in glove relationship between the people here in Nashville and WNXP.
Yeah, I do too. And obviously, like, as the world changes, we're reflective of that and not just like chasing trends, right? Like, I think it's important to note too that we're a small team. We have tastes that are similar, tastes that are different, but like it is our individual choice. Nobody's telling us what to play. There's no like, payola situation. And I think people would be upset to learn how close to that some radio stations really are. Like the flirtation with like, we only play the bands and artists that are like writing us a check. Like it's kind of gross. So I love.
I've had personal experience with that.
So
with
you
the
okay? So
stations
you
here in
know,
town.
yeah,
no, I
and I don't have to talk shit about it. It's just like true, and that's what makes what we do feel so good. Like I sleep well at night, and also feel really excited about the artists that we can uplift and the community we're forging because there are a lot of people that are music lovers and just want to find a music radio home in Nashville because it's their new cool city and they work in healthcare or whatever. But also we know a lot of people listening are music makers themselves. They work in the music business. We want to be reflective of that and be Music City. We have a new podcast called Music Citizens. And this project is a dream of Jason's too, is like, there's so many unsung heroes in music that don't get their stories told. Their names aren't on the marquee. They're not on the stage. They're behind the scenes. Let's tell their stories. And that is such a Nashville thing to be able to do, is to like track those people down, shadow them for a full day, and package it into a podcast format so that they get a little shine,
I, as somebody who's lived here for 20 years, it's just my hometown. And
yeah, it's your adopted hometown.
And with that comes a normalization of everything. I forget. You see Gil and Dave at the restaurant. You're like, oh, wow, they're there. That's cool.
Yeah.
You're not like, the first time you are. Anyway, but then it's funny because I'll watch YouTube and sometimes my algorithm thing will just throw like a Nashville songwriter kind of thing and it'll have like a ton of views. And I realize like, oh yeah. It's such an exotic city compared to other people. And it's easy to forget that people dream about coming here and being part of the scene and what would that be like. And I, having kind of rediscovered that perspective, have kind of gone on my own journey of self-correction to like not take for granted quite so much the amazing resources that are here and the people, that's just the sheer talent that's here, and the guts and the go for it and the dreamers, and it really
the guts
is
and the go for it. Oh, that's a good album title. Write it down.
Okay. Well, Jared, mark that time code if you would mind. Anyway, so
you're right. We can be like immune to it, and it's cool that you're saying that even as a creative person who's like hustling and doing stuff. I feel like I'm like getting to ride sidecar with all these amazing music makers. And like I said, got this roundabout way to doing this, never having worked a day in music business properly. I feel like I like won the lottery because I still get to have this like starstruck, childlike wonder about it. And I honestly approach it as a curious fan, you know? And like when I'm talking to an artist or something, the idea of not taking for granted that we live in a world where you can, even if it's not your full-time thing, you can pursue art and you want to talk about it. Like you want to talk about it. I love to hear about it. And that's why we're different too. It's like we ask the artist about the music instead of just like, or else you can have a playlist. Like you said, the necessary evils of just stitching together music. That's awesome. But people want things curated for them. Sometimes they want to be introduced to something and hear from the person who made it. And I still believe in that. Call me old fashioned.
I mean, that's when you go to a show, and I mean, this is one for the kids. Okay, it's an important part of the.
Okay, listen up. When you go to a show,
when you play your song, you did real good. You practiced that song, you played it, and it was real good song, real good performance, good job. Now you got a moment between that end of that song and the start of the next song. What are you going to do now? Oof. And you don't forget that's as much part of the show as everything else. So I'm trying to say that people, like when I go to shows, I mean, I'm a lifelong fan of some people. Todd Snider is a great example.
Yeah. Talk about Mayor of East Nashville.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I literally moved here because of Todd Snider.
Oh, right, really?
Yeah, I did. I have a whole other story, but I'll tell you.
Okay, offline,
Be buggy about it. But I mean, East Nashville Skyline, top 5 records of all time. To anybody who's interested in folk and Americana music, was recorded 3 houses down. So, I mean, I live in a neighborhood of lore and within a city of lore. I'm just like, pinch me now. But I already can't remember what I was going to say. I got too excited and carried away.
I know. No. Okay. About Todd Snider. Hold on.
Well, just like how magical the city is. Somebody's listening and they were like, Jared, what were we talking about?
Oh, about the time between songs, what you say, the overall performance.
Well, you got to fill that up. And like, that's such if you do it well, then the show is seamless. And it's like, it's hard to know when the show isn't just the performance of these songs. It's all what happens between them and everything. That's such an important part of the artist's package. And so that's what's so cool about like having a context where artists can kind of tell their stories, because it does bring you into the song rather than just hearing a song on a playlist. And so I could get really nerdy about that. And some of my like greatest hits, it might be people that are like my heroes. Like I'm coming fresh off of getting to talk to Neko Case, who's like a top 10 artist for me. Yes.
And she just wrote a book. So she's very comfortable right now talking about her stories. They're very personal stories. But she also said, I don't want to ruin the mythology of a song sometimes for people and go into like deep background about a specific song. I'm paraphrasing. You can hear my interview with her if you'd like, WNXP.org. But like being able to have people that are established talk about their craft and maybe in a new way because you asked it in a different way. I think there's value to that. Sometimes it's been really young artists that maybe haven't even thought about it. And they're just like used to doing like the normal press stuff. And then we get kind of deep and it's my favorite thing.
It's the best.
Yeah.
That's
why you do this?
That's why I do this. Exactly. And that's why you're such a great guest. Yeah. And I can't wait to see you out at the shows one way or another. I'll be there.
Well, I'm going to hang out with your daughter at the shows.
You will be.
We're going to get her into the scene.
This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Total immersion. Yeah. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much for your time, Celia. See you soon. Hey, thanks for watching. Go ahead and click here to like and subscribe. You can click right there to watch another video or click here to watch a playlist featuring songs of the Morse Code Podcast. Okay, thank you very much.